Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our 10th episode of Mana on the Rocks. Really excited to be here. As always, Joe, our ever-benevolent host.
What up?
And then today, joining us, we have James for another Deck Tech episode. We're going to be doing these, like we said, about every 5 episodes. So today, we are breaking down Ghyrson. It's an Izzet Stormlist. This is James's homebrew rogue list. So we're going to be going over some card selection, talking about different possible optimizations for the list, and some of the thoughts that Joe and I have on it. I think that basically ties us up. Come on down, have a drink with us. Okay, James. So Ghyrson Starn Kelermorph. It's a really cool list. What made you want to build it?
What made me want to build this? I wanted to build this because I wanted to. My playstyle, or what I find enjoyment out of Magic, is building decks that no one else builds, and playing out of the norm. And so I think this was a great example of it because no one plays this commander whatsoever.
This guy is very under the radar. No, I speak to that a lot. I've seen this list in action, and every time I see it in action, this list does so much. It does a lot out of nowhere, and I really like the rogue aspect. I value that highly in CDH.
It catches people unaware. I mean, James, you can remember I think it was the last tournament we went to together. You kind of blew a couple tables out because they were like, "You're doing what?"
Yeah. It was I think my second game, I sat down. Everyone was playing. There's 2 Blood Pod players and then an Animar player. And then I pull out Gerson, and one of the guys is just like, "Can I read your commander?" And I'm like, "Sure." He reads it, and he's like, "What the hell is this card? I've never seen this in my life."
That's the best feeling in the world when you bust out something and everyone just goes, "Wait, what is this?"
Let me tell you about Warhammer. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Okay, so you're like, "Oh, this seems neat, seems interesting. Nobody's playing it. What makes this card good? What makes it viable in a highly competitive format with a very narrow lane of play space where everyone's trying to do the most optimal strategy?" This card, we've talked before about the 3 things that makes a commander CDH viable, right? And that's it provides card advantage in the command zone. It provides a combo piece in the command zone, or it provides some unique commander centric attribute, which in this case Gerson would have to fall into because it doesn't combo with anything.
Currently,
they will print the card. Dude, 2036 is going to be wild.
Honestly, I figured they would have learned their lesson from 2031, but after Morrow's Bender, it's been crazy ever since.
I don't know, man. After Lord of the Rings, things got really crazy, and I cannot wait to cast Warp Drive 9 to activate my TARDIS, which will allow me to play a sub-game summoning Captain Kirk to then use my 9th Junie Chiriki player action to manifest a card and cast Thassa's Oracle Consult before the game even starts.
God, you're ignoring the HAL 9000 meta too, which is crazy.
Oh, that's true. That's a good one. That's a good one.
I James, I want you to answer that question. However, we have skipped over a crucial step, which is reading the cards. That way we all know what we're talking about. So
yes. James, I'm so sorry, listeners.
James, read for me Ghyrson Starn Kelermorph, please.
Alrighty. Ghyrson Starn Kelermorph. Colorless, blue pip, and then a red pip. 3/2 Tyrannid Human with Ward 2. Whenever another source you control deals exactly 1 damage to a permanent or player, Ghyrson Starn Kelermorph deals 2 damage to that permanent or player.
Yeah. Okay. So now we did this during the Shaner episode where we got 5 minutes into the conversation. We didn't actually read the card first, so we all know what we're talking about. Yeah, we're just.
I'm looking at the picture.
So okay,
I know exactly what it does.
It's 1-drop pingers. So yeah, talk us through kind of the overall philosophy and theory to the deck.
So I guess we'll start off with how the goal of the deck.
Mhm.
Goal of the deck is to manual storm and burn everyone to death. So the way you burn everyone to death is through cards like Firebrand Archer, where whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it'll deal 1 damage to each opponent, and then Ghyrson will trigger to deal 2 damage to each opponent. So to make it a total of 3 damage. And at that point, you just like chain your cards together to deal a bunch of damage. And then, the way to refill your hand with this is to put a curiosity effect on Ghyrson. So that way you'll draw 3 cards in total, because you'll draw a card for each opponent you hit.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, so you can assemble an engine out of it. It can be like pseudo card advantage in the command zone. So it can like kind of fill that space, but it just has a unique commander attribute that you found to be worth playing around. I mean, I guess if you do the math, it's like what? It's 40 life. If you have to deal over 30 in increments of 3, so it's
10
13
spells.
lightning bolts.
Yeah, 13 lightning
it's
bolts.
13 lightning bolts, but like you don't actually have to cast 13 spells if you're playing these pinger effects, because you only need to cast 13 like non-creature spells, because while the pinger and Gerson are in play, especially if you have curiosity effect. I could see that going off. You do like some sort of like Malcolm Kedis, like I'm gonna hit you, deal damage to each opponent type thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So that's the engine of the deck, and that's the core, right?
Yes.
Okay. So basically what we like to do on these now is I've got it broken down on my screen by card type. And so I'm going to run over some of the cards and we can talk about card selection. And this is really where we can like sort of dive into the meat of why do you choose this card? Why wouldn't you choose something that might be considered to be generically better in most lists? Okay, So we'll just start with creatures and run down the list. And if you have any comments, please feel free to share.
Okay.
So we're in Izzet. So obviously, Ragavan feels like kind of a must. You don't get mana dorks, so your one and only like pseudo mana dork is Ragavan. Allows you to like steal a card draw and generate a treasure. It's pretty good, pretty standard.
Very
it's
standard,
2/1.
yeah.
Does not trigger Gerson, but it does get you to him faster, I assume.
Yes.
Dockside Extortionist. Then we have Electrostatic Field. Yeah, Dockside. I don't. Needs no further explanation.
Electrostatic Field and Firebrand Archer. Kessig Flame Breather. 2-drop pingers. I feel like how many pingers are we on? So that's 3 right there. There's Thermal Alchemist. There is later on down the curve we have Urbrask. So 1, 2, 3, 4 pingers at the 2 slots. So
and then there's also a Electrode and a Nimbuzet.
Ooh,
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we're on 6 pingers then, it sounds like. Yeah, 6 pingers. So I mean that's
6 pingers over a 20 creature density. Okay, so you're pretty heavy on those.
So it's about like the same like ratios I would say like most green decks are playing dorks. So you're gonna reasonably see these pretty often. Because I feel like that's definitely where I see this deck popping off more, and where I've seen you pop off is once we have a pinger in play, we just start going crazy.
Yeah, you like kind of got to slap a curiosity on there, but then you start to like get there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, here's this is a fun one. Might not seem super intuitive at first, but Loyal Apprentice.
This card's sick. This card's
classic
sick.
Timna card.
This card's sick.
Many people probably know it. It's a 2 mana, red and 1 human artificer. It's a 2/1 with haste. Has the ability Lieutenant, so as long as you control your commander at the beginning of combat on your turn, you can create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. That token gains a haste until end of turn, meaning that you generate an attacker. Now, here's the crazy thing about Gerson, and we read this earlier, but I'll touch on it again, is that whenever another source you control deals exactly 1 damage to a permanent or player, that damage doesn't have to be non-combat damage. If a source in combat deals exactly 1 damage, Gerson will trigger and deal 2 damage for that 1 damage. So, I remember you played this against us the first time, and everyone's like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And I was looking at this, and I was like, "Wait a minute, this just makes a flying lightning bolt every turn." Like, yeah. So this card is really strong, very interesting. What made you think to include this?
Sometimes like you just need to go on a beatdown plan, because like if you go under like a rule of law effect, you're at least dealing damage somewhat in a spell heavy deck.
Yeah. Okay, and it's making 1 every turn, so it does get larger. And Gerson deals the damage to creatures in combat too, right? Yeah, it's any permanent
to that
Yes.
permanent or player. So it's the same.
Okay.
It's the same endpoint that the source is dealing damage to.
Yeah, so if somebody blocks your Thopter, they're actually blocking a 3/1.
Yes.
That's gross. Okay. That's some of that rogue jank tech where people aren't going to get that the first 1 or 2 times if they haven't played against your deck, and they're like, yeah, I'll throw my Crom in front of it, and
Yeah, why
suddenly
not?
the Crom is marked for 3 damage, and everyone's like, wait a second.
Yeah, there was like I don't tell people about it because they asked to read the Ghyrson first when I cast it, and then they're like, oh, okay, but a lot of the times they don't realize that it's also for creatures as well. Like if they do exactly 1 damage.
I know I didn't. It took a moment.
Yeah, I was able to kill like a Draenith Magistrate with it, and then I was able to kill someone's Thrasios 1 game. They blocked.
Incredible. Like
Disrespectful.
I'll just block this 1/1. Who cares? Okay,
Disrespectful.
trigger target the Thrasios. Thrasios is dead. Like that's embarrassing.
Reading the card explains the card, I guess.
Yeah. No, I like the density of pingers here. I really like flying Loyal Apprentice. I think it's a really good. I think it's a very top down game plan to include in the deck. It feels very very free. And it's another axis that you can continue to pressure people on. If
really
it gets maxed
passive.
out. Very very good.
Even if Ghyrson disappears, like at least you have an army of 1/1s that can just keep swinging on people or convert into blockers.
Yeah,
which is kind of nice. They are artifacts, which I guess opens you up like a slight weakness to Dockside if this card is in play for a period. But also the fact that they're 3/1s as opposed to 1/1s means that it's less of a weakness because you can just beat up the Dockside player.
That's true.
Exactly. Another note about the Loyal Apprentice is that it's sort of like a backup pinger as well, because Ghyrson is a triggered ability, so you can still cast a Curiosity effect on Ghyrson, and then when your Thopters go in for the damage, Ghyrson will do 2 additional damage, and then you'll draw cards off of that.
Okay, that's actually big. That's
Joe didn't know that tech.
It's a trigger that's sick.
Yeah,
that's
Ghyrson
sick.
deals the damage. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really neat. Okay, so moving on. We got a Phantasmal image here. Pretty standard. You got a utility package, clone yours, someone else's Dockside, clone a Draenith Magistrate, something useful. Don't think there's anything super unique about this card in your list. Thermo Alchemist is a pinger, we mentioned that. Young Pyromancer.
Young peasy.
Sort of like a similar aspect to Loyal Apprentice. It's a 2 mana, 2/1. It makes a 1/1 elemental creature token every time you cast an instant or sorcery. So more attackers, more combat pingers for your Ghyrson to trigger on. We got Imperial Recruiter. Is a 1/1 for 3 mana. It enters the battlefield and searches for a creature power 2 or less. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and then you can shuffle your library.
Seems standard for Izzet, really.
Yeah, pretty standard. Grabs Dockside, grabs Loyal Apprentice, I guess in this case.
Grabs Fimmage, grabs a pinger.
It grabs a Tandem Lookout as well.
Oh,
Which is
It does
very
grab
important.
Tandem Lookout. That is
we
that
were
is
mentioning
crucial.
Curiosity, and Tandem Lookout is the Curiosity creature. It is 2 mana and a blue for a 2/1 Human Scout with the ability Soul Bond. And as long as Tandem Lookout is paired with another creature, each of those creatures have, whenever this creature deals damage to an opponent, draw a card. So I assume we were talking about slapping Curiosity on Ghyrson, so you like slap this onto Ghyrson, and then whenever your pinger deals damage, or whenever a 1/1 deals damage, or whatever, you draw a card to gas up your hand. You said Manual Storm earlier.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and that is tutorable. That's neat. You got a Birgi in here.
Really,
fuels-
we like Storm. This is the Storm card.
Fuels the loop, right? Yeah,
Yep.
It's like we're gonna cast a bolt effect of some variety. We'll get to those in a bit, but we're gonna cast a bolt effect, and then you make a red, and you can do it again. And then, do you ever play the backside? Is Harnfell good in your list?
Harnfell is very good in the list.
I feel like any deck
'Cause-
that plays. Oh, yeah, sorry, go for it.
Oh, yeah, because, like, sometimes if you, like, Curiosity effects, sometimes you just don't need the extra mana from Birgi if you, like, if you already have, like, a Pinger out and a Curiosity on Gerson, and if you just, like, draw a Birgi, you probably, at that point, don't need to cast the Birgi for its front side, and instead you could just cast for backside and get more spells, hopefully.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's a storm list. Like Bergie is like the storm card. Both sides are always good because it either keeps your engine going, lets you get over the hump, or lets you convert extra cards in your hand into digging further to once again get over the hump. Like it's a storm card through and through, and it absolutely at home in this deck.
She's Birgi, god of stormy telling.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, moving on from that terrible pun. Okay, a card that I'm interested in here. I'll jump into it in one sec. So, Stormkiln Artist can make mana similar to Birgi. It has Magecraft. You make a treasure token, so that seems pretty straightforward as an include. Archmage Emeritus, I was a little bit more curious about, just because this is a Magecraft trigger and it forces a draw. So it's 4 mana to get a draw effect whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, meaning you have to cast specifically an instant or sorcery as opposed to just like a non-creature spell in order to trigger a pinger. When you do, you draw a card, and especially if you're manually storming, I don't know. It looks like you might have, I haven't gone all the way through the list yet, but it looks like you might have like some brain freeze, like Underworld Breach stuff going on here. Has it ever been a problem where like, do you have a game plan where you can get your Archmage out of play if you start running out of cards in your library, or does that not become an issue with this deck?
It's never become an issue with the deck. Even with like a Tandem Lookout as well, if I'm like drawing 3 cards, because Tandem Lookout is a must draw. But I've never like had to bolt my own Tandem Lookout to kill it.
Okay,
I'm
interesting.
gonna say we're playing a lot of ping effects. We can just kill our own
You just
Archmage
generate
pretty
enough
easily.
damage to kill everybody.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, cool. Then that leads to Urabrask. The new Urabrask
This
is
card's
a
disgusting.
really cool card. I saw this in your list and I was like, that makes total sense. It is a 4 mana 4/4 red 2 for a legendary Phyrexian Praetor. Urabrask has first strike. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Urabrask deals 1 damage to target opponent. Add red. And then the activated
It has
ability...
more text beyond that, which is crazy.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, sorry. That sounded like the end. It's not the end. It has pay a red, exile Urabrask, then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. Activate this ability only as a sorcery, and only if you've cast 3 or more instant or sorcery spells this turn. And then it flips, it transforms into the Great Work, which is a saga. On verse 1, the Great Work deals 3 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. On verse 2, it creates 3 treasure tokens. And on verse 3, you gain an ability that is effectively Yawgmoth's Will for each of your opponent's graveyards.
Only it's sorceries, though.
Only instants and sorceries. Yeah, so it's sort of like a Meme Betrayal, Yawg's Will blend type deal on verse 3. So obviously the front side seems super intuitive for your deck. It deals 1 damage and makes a red. So it's Birgi and the pinger for Birgi at the same time.
It's just the best. It's probably one of the best creatures in the deck that like isn't outright like the win condition piece. Like it does, this card does literally everything. It generates the mana to keep you storming. It pings stuff. And it has like an advantage backside as well. Like it's literally everything this deck wants.
Yeah, it seems insane. But so my question was, like, if you ever flip this card, is it ever useful to turn this over?
Yes. The backside of this, like when I first played this in the deck, I was like, I'm probably never gonna flip this because I always want the front side.
Right.
Get the mana, generate a bunch of damage as well or mana. But then you go up against like decks like Winota. And that just like wipes their whole board just from the backside.
You see how 1, 2, 3. We'll flip this.
Yeah, I'm just gonna deal 9 to everybody, and then I'm gonna wipe the Winota board.
Okay, that's actually that's really sweet. Okay, so it does have useful.
Yeah, that's relevant. That's good. That's
useful
good.
Play outside of just the front side. That's nice. I really like it when those modal cards, like you can play both sides and they both have uses in their own certain situations.
Very distinct uses too. It's a backup way to like recoup your losses, get back into like a storm, or like set up storm for the long term. Now, the backside seems really, really good.
It's just target opponent, or is it each opponent?
It's each opponent,
target
each player,
and each creature they control.
Oh, target opponent. Okay, yeah. So that direct board. It's a targeted.
It's
board,
a direct board wipe.
But generally speaking, that's arguably better in most cases because you're able to.
You don't have to clear all the random stacks pieces.
Clear all the random stacks pieces that are on the board, but you specifically are able to clear like the Winota board or like the Yuriko board or the green players board and still maintain the rest of the board, which arguably better than just like straight deal 3 to everything.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about wiping like the one opposition agent and like off the table that's holding everybody in check because you generally don't care about it. I think. Okay, and then it helps you out to Dranith Magistrate. It gives you an out to that as well, I guess.
True.
Yes. Another thing about the Urbrask is that Urbrask will pay for itself to flip it from the mana it generates, which is really neat.
Holy that's okay. That's true. This card, how does this card get even more insane the more and more we talk about and read it? This card's insane.
Right, because so you cast the spell, you cast your because you're casting this as a sorcery is at 1 or 2 mana piece anyways, so they're neutral if not like maybe 1 mana negative, maybe possibly positive. I guess it's possible if you like Git Probe or something. So it makes a red, and then it makes another red, and then it makes another red, and then on the is it third? It's the 4th spell? Third spell. On the 3rd spell, you still have the red to flip it because it only costs 1 to activate. That's really cool.
That's incredibly efficient.
That's the kind of card quality we're looking for.
Absolutely. that's the kind of top tier jank we're looking for in our CDH game. I love it. I love it.
All right. And then we move to the top end of your curve here. You mentioned Izzet. It's a pinger. It draws you cards. It storms. Basically everything good that we've already talked about.
Yeah. It also just closes out the game with Curiosity.
Oh, right, because you're on Curiosity Effects. Duh.
We're on Curiosity. We're on Tandem Lookout. Not to spoil anything, we're on Ophidian Eye. We're like this again. This is a really good inclusion. Like it does everything we want to do. It's great independently. We're already wanting the Curiosity Effects. Slam dunk.
Just makes sense.
Good deck building. Good.
And now it's 2 cards. One oh sorry, you were gonna mention.
Oh yeah, so with Izzet, even if you like don't have a Curiosity Effect already, it's kind of already just like its own backup Curiosity Effect, or you just have a bunch of lightning bolts to your advantage.
Yeah, because whenever any player casts an instant or sorcery, it deals 1 damage, which triggers Gerson.
And then one last thing about Izzet is that if you have a Gerson in play and Gerson itself already has the Curiosity Effect on it, it'll still do this same combo as if like Izzet had the Curiosity on itself.
Because you'll ping for 1, Gerson will trigger, shoot everybody. Ooh. You'll draw the 3 cards, which will trigger Izzet 3 times, which will shoot everybody. Yeah, that's really sweet. I think that fixes a lot of what I have issues with the Curiosity Effect. You need exactly both those cards in your hand when you're ready to go. This way, you're able to run it out as a value piece. Everyone goes, "Oh, okay, that's cool, that's sweet, that's your draw engine." And then you go, Izzet, like later actually
on.
My onboard Curiosity.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Pretty cool, actually. Okay, and then so Consecrated Sphinx and Hullbreaker Horror were the last 2 creatures in the list. And the ones that I had the most questions about. So they're top-end creatures. Consecrated Sphinx, like, I kind of get. It gasses you back up. It in a 2-color list that's manual storming, like it helps you compete if like someone has a Ristic Study. So like they aren't 1 for 1ing you, you're actually 2 for 1ing them. Every time you cast a spell, they draw a card to combat you, and then you get to draw 2 to combat their 1. So that I guess makes sense, and like it's pretty easy to cast as a top end at just blue 4. But you can mention your thoughts on that one. But then also I had questions about like Hullbreaker Horror, to my mind, does not make a lot of sense in this list. Just because like infinite mana doesn't really get you anywhere, right? Like you have no single command zone. So like is it just an insane like control piece? Like you're like, I guess I'll cast this counterspell and also bounce your like combo piece or whatever. Like, what is the logic behind these 2 cards?
So we'll start with Consphinx first. So Consphinx there is just, it's just
good
there's
card?
like good. It's a really good card. Yeah, just a good card to have in a deck.
Trust me, it's fun.
I don't hate that idea.
Yes, yeah. Sometimes I just get into like really grindy games, and just having a Consphinx there to even just like draw 2 cards off of it is still like really good for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, hopefully I can hit like, I don't know, an Otawara or something to return whatever is staxing me out.
Yeah,
sure.
I don't hate the idea. I definitely I think without green, it's a little bit harder to put in.
You can't tutor it is a bit of an issue in blue-red, but I get it. Like sometimes you just need a top-end bomb just to have it, just to run it out there and have an engine you can establish, and it just gets you back in the game. Right? That makes sense. Consphinx, like, kind of makes sense, but I'm so curious about the reasoning behind Hullbreaker Horror.
So Hullbreaker Horror is one of the ways I just like close out the game, because you have like your mana vault and your mana crypt. You produce your infinite mana.
Sure.
But those are also non-creature spells you're casting. So if you have like a Firebrand Archer or a Kessig Flamebreather, you'll still do infinite damage to everyone.
Okay.
Those do say cast a non-creature spell, don't they?
Yeah, there are two outlets in the creature base. I don't hate that.
It's not something I would see coming at first. That's for sure. I would definitely not notice that the first.
Yeah. I think my one issue with Hullbreaker again is just like we're lacking green. We're lacking ways to like cheat them out into the play. Like I think they're really good, but you have to have like a fizzled storm turn or need to be like really high up on mana. That's my only like gripe I have with with those cards. I think the inclusions make definite sense, but that's like my one like negative against that.
Yeah, unfortunately there's always going to be some degree of variance in blue red just because you don't have access to super efficient tutors. Except for instants and sorceries. So but it's also just a great piece where I don't think you even necessarily need to go infinite with a pinger on board for it, just because there are so many instants in this deck. You're literally playing 24 instants and then a couple of cards that just have flash. Just the ability to bounce a relevant spell off the stack. Like I will put that ad nauseum that you tapped out for it and step back into your hand, and now everyone knows it's there and can prepare for it. Like I think I see the value of the card, even if it is a little top heavy for my personal taste.
Another note about the Consphinx though. For me, that's just kind of like a flex slot in the deck.
I can see that, yeah. Plus, like, Consphinx is one of those cards that I think I'm always fine with it, like, sitting in my hand if the game's gonna go long. Like, if someone lands, like, a really critical stack piece, like, if we get Dranith and Collector Oofed, like, turn 1, turn 2, and this is sitting in my hand, I'm very happy that this card's sitting in my hand, and we're going long. But it's one of those cards I can definitely see, like, shifting out for something, like, slightly faster. It's a decent meta call slot, I would say.
All right, let's move into those juicy sorceries, and this is where I think
the magic happens.
Yeah, this is I think where a lot of your cool tech comes in. So starting at the top, End the Festivities. For those Krarkashima players out there, you will know this card. But for those of you who don't play such a cursed deck, it is a sorcery that casts for red. End the Festivities deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. So with Ghyrson in play, it's a 1 mana, entirely one-sided Anger of the Gods. It also burns each player for 1. So this card seems crazy. The next card on the list is Flame Jab. This card I'm sure you'll want to talk about because it's a pretty interesting one. It's another sorcery, red. Flame Jab deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So it's basically a really bad gut shot, but it does have the ability Retrace, which says you can cast the card from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other costs.
Yes, so this is probably my favorite card in the deck, but so with Gerson you have like a retraceable lightning bolt, pretty much. But here's the fun tech. So if you have Birgi out and you have a Flame Jab, you can cast the Flame Jab, or hold on, let me set this up again. So you have a Ghyrson out, and say you have your Firebrand Archer and your Curiosity effect. You have your engine running.
You're full steam ahead.
Yeah, then you slap down like your Birgi, and then you cast your Flame Jab. So casting a Flame Jab, you'll trigger your Firebrand Archer, deal 3 damage to everyone, or deal 1 damage. Gerson will trigger, deal 2 damage. Curiosity trigger, draw 3 cards. You'll draw 3 cards, and you have your Birgi trigger as well. Sorry about that. And then you'll create your red mana, and then at that point, you'll probably have drawn some lands. So there, you can use the red mana to retrace the Flame Jab, discarding lands, and repeat this cycle over and over again.
Kill the table. Flame Jab Birgi is the combo.
You have built your own Breach line, which I really like.
I love it.
I like this line a lot. No, the Flame Jab is really, really spicy. I wish Flame Jab was an instant. That's like my only wish on the card, but I really like it. I think having that I think having access to repeatable, like pretty consistent removal and having it be Lightning Bolt is what we're like having access to in this deck is very, very potent. I think it's going to be very underlooked.
Yeah, also the important thing about this is that it converts your lands, which in a Storm list are typically considered very dead drops on a Storm turn. You never want to see any more lands than you absolutely have to. It's why the older Storm lists for 60 card formats play a lot of ways to like filter those, like whether it be Faithless Looting or a Brainstorm or something. Like you have to get those dead cards out of your hand so that you can get more gas. And I think Flame Jab does an excellent job of converting that disadvantage into just straight raw power in the list. I'll also note I was talking with James at one point during a tournament in between rounds. I had just finished mine and James had been watching, and the judge was recording all of the wins in a round. The judge comes over and asks, says, "Hey, you won, right? You're James?" And he says, "Yeah." He's like, "Sorry, just for our notes, how'd you win your round?" And James says, "Oh, Birky Flame Jab combo." And the judge gets the most puzzled look on their face, like, what is that? Just like they were so confused. They're like, okay, I know what Birgi is. You can see the gears spinning. I know what Birgi is. I know what it does. Never heard of the card Flame Jab before in their life. Incredible. And James just goes, Manual Storm.
What a letdown. We gotta make that. I gotta make this comment popular. Gotta make it famous.
Push the deck to tier 1. You're gonna replace Krarkashima as the default Izzet deck.
Good.
Absolutely.
Good.
Okay, so moving past Flame Jab.
Could we actually just jump back to End the Festivities real quick?
Oh, sure, definitely.
So End the Festivities is like one of the best cards in the deck as well, because if you have, you have your Curiosity and your Fire Branch like out on the field, End the Festivities, it'll essentially draw you 6 cards off of it.
Oh yeah, 2 triggers each. Ooh.
Yeah, because it'll deal a damage, and then Gerson will trigger 3 times, and then the pinger will trigger 3 times. So you'll draw 3 more cards. Yeah,
that's
1 mana draws you 6 cards.
That's
I cannot think of a better exchange rate.
This is really like already we're not even like a third of the way through the list, and like this is such a sick Storm list. It operates on such a completely different axis, and it's able to convert to wins very, very easily.
Yes, it's super unique, and it's really interesting to see all of the different like weird cards that one never thought would ever be playable in CEDH come together into like this one shell.
I feel like that's just the Storm special. It's just like a bunch of random ass cards just coalesce into like this powerhouse machine.
Oh, truly. Okay, so then we got a couple other sorceries that won't really surprise people. We got Gamble. We're limited on tutors. We got to play this card. It's also good with Underworld Breach. We got Gitaxian Probe. Pretty standard. You're going to trade a card for a card and a little bit of extra information. It also seems sweet because you can cast it for free to trigger your pingers. So you're paying 0 mana to theoretically cycle into it up to 4 cards.
Pretty good exchange rate. And then you also see someone's hand. Okay, You got Ponder and Preordain to smooth out your draws. Rite of Flame is good with Underworld Breach, ramps you into your commander because it's a 3 cost. So 1 red and a blue source will get you there. Serum Visions smooths out draws again, looks like. Strike It Rich, I think, is another like ramp, just like / cantrippy. It filters colors for you, I would imagine, on Storm turns, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so Strike It Rich is a 1 red and for a sorcery that creates a treasure token. You can flashback for red and 2. So you can also like use it to filter red mana off of like a Jessica's Will and stuff. And the last couple cards here are Grape Shot, which deals 1 damage, which is actually 3 and has Storm. So I assume this is like your like finisher card, similar to like an Aether Flux Reservoir or something like that. And then there's Jessica's Will, of course. Pretty standard in Izzet Shell, especially when you're trying to like pop off on a Storm turn. You're gonna make some mana, look at some extra cards,
It's just
and then
like
play those.
such a good storm card. It does everything you need.
It's a great card. And then Windfall. It's gonna re-gas up your hand. Looks like. Let me see here. There's also. Yes, I knew there's one that I passed over, saving it for best for last. Okay, Finale of Promise. This card sees play in Anala is the only other shell that I can think of right now that really plays this card. But it's red X for a sorcery. It says you may cast up to one target instant and or up to one target sorcery card from your graveyard, each with converted mana cost X or less without paying their mana costs. If a card cast this way would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead, and if X is 10 or more, copy each of those spells twice, and you may choose new targets for the copy. So what's the deal with this card? Seems like I get that it's a storm deck, but it seems a little out of place.
So this card, it just provides more cast triggers pretty much, and like also allows me to cast it very low. For like, I cast it on X equals 1, and I get to recast an instant and a sorcery, and most of the deck is like 1-drops for instant and sorceries. Right. So it'll provide 3 cast triggers. I'll get to draw 9 cards.
3 cast triggers off of 3 mana. That's a good rate.
It's pretty substantial. Okay. Okay. So you're never casting this for X's 10 though.
No, never.
You're never including it for the upside. It's literally just for the fact that it can basically give you an extra cast off of a card from the graveyard.
You're probably hitting like X2 at the most, I think.
Maybe 3, I guess, if you need to wheel desperately.
Yeah. But no, I think as a way to just juice more cast triggers, and also like, I mean, hitting like ritual and like draw spell like seems pretty good, and we have pingers going, and we have Gerson going. Like, yeah, this card seems like it does a lot.
That was the thing that occurred to me, is the deck seems like it's very red heavy, and as such your mana base is kind of skewed. So it seems like there might be points where you choke up on blue mana, and I think this card, considering it's red and colorless, I would imagine it could be really useful for like filtering red off of like a Jessica's Will or a Right or something like that into, say, a Strike It Rich for a second time to make blue, or like a Frantic Search or something to untap some stuff. So yeah, interesting utility there.
And then for Grape Shot, Grape Shot's also just another out for the Hullbreaker Horror, which was one you mentioned. So it gives us 3 outs.
Yes. Technically,
Technically
does create Infinite Storm. So you could win without your commander again. Okay, nice. So you can like pivot to like a sort of blue-red control shell if you need to, I guess. Does that happen much? Do you ever find yourself playing the game like that?
Ever since I included Hullbreaker Horror, I found myself just winning with it a lot more than like manual storming, I guess, because I've been getting into like a lot of grindy games lately.
And they just give you the time to assemble mana to cast Horror.
Yes, it's also just a great control piece.
It is a really good control piece, yeah.
If you're gonna be given time to set up any creature, I feel like Hullbreaker Horror is one of the best creatures to set up.
Yeah, it does basically win you the game if it resolves and you have some cards and some mana.
Yeah,
not even a lot, just some. Okay, so now we move on to instants. Like I mentioned, 24 of these suckers.
The meat and potatoes of the deck.
Meat and potatoes. So we got a pretty standard counterspell suite, so I'm going to brush over those like super quickly, unless there was any that are like particularly notable. You got Offer, you have Flusterstorm, Mental Misstep, there's Reb and Pyro, Swan Song, Delay. Mana Drain is a little interesting, being a double blue pip card that, I mean, I guess it provides ramp, but it's an interesting card. I guess I would want you to comment on like why you're including that specifically. And then you got Deflecting Swat, you got Fierce Guardianship, Force of Negation, and Force of Will. Of these, my main comment is that it seems like Offer could be really useful to like get extra storm triggers to counter your own spell and like generate more mana. But I also noticed you're not on Pact of Negation, which is typically like, I really don't, me personally at least, I don't brew a deck with blue without just auto-including Pact of Negation. So why aren't we playing that card?
So partly why we're not playing that one is I just didn't have one.
That's fair. Wait. No shame in not having the card. It's all right.
Okay, fair enough. I was just curious if there was some particular reason as to why it was not included. But nope, just wasn't space. Didn't have one. All right.
Totally fair. That is a spell I would definitely recommend if people want to play the deck. Put a pact negation here. It protects your storm turns. It's a good card.
I just bought one like 3 days ago as well.
Let's
so
go.
Go in.
Let's go.
There we go.
What would be your slot out?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what about Mana Drain? Are we gonna revisit that one? Like, would that be your pack slot? Because it is blue pip.
I think we can Mana Drain.
I actually really like Mana Drain because it allows me to cast like the Hullbreaker Horror. It's a lot of mana. It also allows me to cast a Con Sphinx or my my other 2-drop artifacts in the deck, because the artifacts are also non-creatures, so I'll get to trigger like for 3 damage off of them.
Okay,
I could see us cutting like maybe Pyroblast. We're in blue. We're already on a pretty decent density of counter spells. I think we can trim when the right interaction pieces, maybe. Anyhow, continuing on.
Yeah. So then we got some more cantrips. Got like a Brainstorm. Got Mystical Tutor, so more tutor density. Got a Ritual in the form of Battle Hymn. Which we're on 20 creatures in our Izzet deck, so I guess it does make sense to play this. It can just be like a 2-mana cast trigger, make some more mana to cast some more spells type deal. Seems
we're
pretty
also
strong.
on the 2 token makers as well.
Oh,
Young
token makers seem to go crazy with this card.
Loyal Apprentice are very good with this card.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, yeah, I know this is like a Krarkashima card mostly. Because they make a lot of guys, but okay, that's sweet. It does. You do also make guys. It looks like you're playing some pretty basic removal. You got Pongify, you got Cyclonic Rift, Snap. You're on Gut Shot, which is super duper sweet.
I love that. I love Gut Shot here.
Gut Shot is 1 Phyrexian red for an instant that deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So it is a free lightning bolt essentially. However, I'm not sure if this is a flavor win or a flavor loss that you are on just straight up lightning bolt. Like, that deals 3 damage, not 1. What's going on here?
Lightning bolt. If I can't get out my Gerson fast enough and I get hit with the Drannith, lightning bolt just removes that. Yeah,
the card is really good. I noticed that you're not on a braid, so I wonder if Drannith is an issue. Just like, is there a reason that we're not also on a braid?
We're on Submerge.
Yeah, I think we're like I don't think I put a braid in the deck because it's like it's 2 mana. I know, gross.
Fair.
But like I felt like I had enough removal for like a Drannith already.
Okay.
I mean, I will use a Force of Will on a Drannith if I absolutely have to.
I mean, yeah, that might be good threat assessment based on the match.
Yeah, I think a braid's like the only thing really missing from the removal suite. I like Submerge here. I think that covers up a lot more, a lot of like bigger things that we can't really like get to. A lot of our removal is very damage based, or bounce the hand based. I like putting things back in the deck here. Gets rid of it permanently. I do think a braid probably belongs in the deck to some degree, just because we're on Breach, and I think we want to not be under Grafdigger's Cage as much, especially with like Flame Jab. I like a braid in this list. I would recommend a slot here for a braid.
So I think that just about ties up Instants and Sorceries, unless you had any other comments.
I just probably Submerge. Submerge is just like it's another flex slot. It's just in my meta. There's a lot of green players, so I'm gonna
for sure. No, I think
it's a free spell.
Free interaction, very good. I'm not saying Submerge is bad. I like Submerge a lot. That's just like what I noticed would be decent slot out for a braid.
So we haven't actually mentioned what Submerge does. So I'll just insert that real quick. It is blue and 4 for an instant. It places target creature on top of its owner's library, and if an opponent controls a forest and you control an island, you may play Submerge without paying its mana cost.
Did we cover Dizzy Spell here?
Oh no! How could I have forgotten the best instant in the deck? Dizzy Spell. 1 blue for an instant. Target creature gets -3, -0 until end of turn.
CDH.
Why ever would one include this card? Why ever would we include this card? The Winota hits you for 3 damage less. Is it because the Sarah's Ascendant only dinks you for 3? No, it's because of the ability this card has. It transmutes for blue 1. For those of you who might not be familiar, transmute is a mechanic that allows you to discard a card from your hand and search your library for any other card with equal converted mana cost. So in this case, any card with converted mana cost 1. And as we're about to get to here in the enchantment section, I think everyone's favorite 1-cost card in this deck is going to be Curiosity, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's just like the sole purpose of this card.
Just to go get Curiosity.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think we're missing a lot of density here, so I think this one skates by for me.
I think it's really interesting. I would be curious to know if you ever see any utility from the top half of that card. Like literally ever, or is it just a 3-mana tutor for Curiosity?
You have 3 life and you've been hit with Brew 3.
Yeah, the top half actually does come in handy, like if you're getting hit by a Tymna player, like you have a Grim Hireling player or PFB.
Yeah.
You know, you just
Professional
deny him,
Facebreaker, yeah.
deny him some of that mana,
Mhm.
which is nice, and it's also just a 1 mana cast.
True.
If you already have the Curiosity out.
Yeah, you can target your own stuff. Okay, so it is technically the upside is playable. Okay.
You can probably politic your way with this card to like blank an attack to force a block to go through.
Yeah, I could see that card being useful for politics, actually. Yeah, that's a unique use for the card that I wouldn't have considered on face value. Other than that, looks like you're on some pretty basic ramp package. You got your Moxen, got a couple 2-mana rocks in here. The one spicy include you got is Moonsnare Prototype.
I like this card here.
Which is basically just a Springleaf Drum. It's 1 blue for an artifact. It says tap an untapped artifact or creature you control and create a colorless. But the interesting side, aside from, is that on top of being pitchable to Force of Will, which always love, anyone who knows me knows that is a solid 20% selling point on any given card. This card also has
hold
channel,
on. Here's
though.
5 colors of magic. 20%. That's good. That's good math. The math checks out.
20%.
Can't argue the numbers.
All right. So Moonsnare Prototype also has channel. Channel for blue and 4. So you're gonna pay that cost and discard Moonsnare Prototype. And then you're going to be able to place the owner of target non-land permanent is going to put that card on the top or bottom of their libraries. So it's sort of like Submerge for non-land permanents, kind of, except you're going to be paying retail value for the ability every time. There's no reduction. Is there a reason that you chose to include this over like Springleaf Drum or a different rock? Like, is it just because of the force pitch / removal, or what's going on here?
It allows you to play through like silence effects, where you just get to discard it and return something. I get like put it on top of the library. I don't know the exact rating on a Grand Abolisher, but I'm not. Does it play? I'm not sure if it plays.
Yeah, you can channel through a Grand Abolisher.
Yeah, you can channel it through Grand Abolisher. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So you can put their Grand Abolisher back on top of their library if they try to go for the win on their turn, and then they're opened up for interaction at that point.
Okay, right on. All right, and now for the icing on the cake, you got 5 enchantments in your deck. As we've mentioned, Curiosity, of course. Mystic Remora and Rhystic Studies are mainstays. If you're not playing them and you're playing blue, you're probably playing Magic wrong. Of course, there are exceptions, but we won't get to those. And then there is Ophidian Eye, which is a 3-mana enchantment. It has Flash. And it is just Curiosity. So whenever enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. It's literally the exact same text as Curiosity, except for 2 more mana, you staple instant speed casting ability to it. And so I figured we're just looking for a higher density since we don't have a lot of tutors. And then the last enchantment is, of course, everyone's favorite Underworld Breach, which now that I go back and mention it, like you're on the only like Breach card that I see realistically like in your deck, like classic Breach card would be like a Snap or like I guess even a Lotus Petal, but you're not on you're not on LED, you're not on Brain Freeze, you're not on like any of those like traditional breachy like Izzet breach core type stuff. What's going on with this? There's no intuition, nothing.
So first off, those cards are too expensive for me.
We hate
kind
the
of
reserve list here.
Yeah, we hate reserve lists. I'm also a broke teenager, so yeah, we can't do that. Underworld Breach is simply in here for value purposes. It's a value breach.
Okay.
If people ask you, are you playing Underworld Breach combos? I can say no.
That is
without
true.
lying,
We're not
pretty
playing the cards you would expect to play. We're playing Flame Jab Bergie. We're playing Better Breach.
Cool.
Okay, fair enough.
No, I think we have enough fuel. That like value breacher is actually good. We have a decent amount of things that we want to cast repeatedly through the yard. We have a decent amount of ways to fill the yard. Just through our cantrip density. Why are we not on Darcy? Dragon's Rage Channeler here.
I just to me it wasn't that important to just surveil.
Okay.
If I'm already just drawing cards.
Okay. That makes sense, and especially if we're not putting like breach as like a pillar for the deck, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another thing with Underworld Breach is one of my games, I was like, I cast an Underworld Breach, and then I only have 2 cards in graveyard, and they ask me, "Are you on breach lines?" And I'm like, "No, there's no brain freeze, no LED, nothing like that." And they're like, "Okay, that can resolve." And they're sitting with a mana drain in hand and a force of negation as well. So I'm like, okay, cool. And then cast a Rite of Flame. And then I cast another, I think I cast a Battle Hymn after that. So I have 4 cards in graveyard. And then I just go to recast a Tandem Look out of my graveyard and then win the game off of that.
You're like, I'm literally just playing Yawgmoth's Will in red right now. That's great. I love that.
That's really good.
I'm a little surprised that got you there. I don't think I would ever, for the life of me, let a breach resolve.
No,
but,
never let the breach resolve. There's always reasons for breach
but
to be
that is
back.
wild, and I guess sometimes it is the small, like, finagling politics that get you there, right? So that's pretty sweet. Yeah, so we've covered basically every card in the deck. You got your 28 card mana base. Pretty generic, playing Odawara, playing a couple fetch lands, you got your duels, you're on an Urza Saga. I think the most spicy land is you're playing Sotenzen, because
That
you
card
can
seems gassier.
channel it and make 2 1/1s, which
we're making
actually 3/1s.
Make 2 3/1s
They're
here.
actually 3/1s, so that's pretty cool. But that's pretty standard. But overall, what are you, like, this list seems sweet. What are your impressions of it, like, in tournament play? How does it run in a constructed meta or like a blind meta? Tell us a little bit about your experiences with the deck.
So with a blind meta, this is Gerson. People read him, they're like, this card can't be good. So you're already at an advantage there.
That
going
means we
into
have to
the
play
game.
Magic.
Yeah, you get to play Magic. They're not going to target you because it's like, it's kind of bad. You have to do exactly 1 damage just to do an additional 2. Like, at that point, why not just play Torbrin? Because, you can just deal 2 additional damage no matter what. But, blind meta, they don't care for this card. So, yeah. And I don't really think there's much more to say about that aspect.
Okay, that's totally fair. Yeah, I think there's the rogue deck element, and people underestimating your commanders super, super relevant. How, in your opinion, how's this going to stack up against like some of the other Izzet shells out there? Like, so some of the other core Izzet commanders would be like Niv Mizzet Parun as an actual commander with Curiosity in the command zone. There's like Malcolm Kedis, Polyhorn or Blue Moon variants, and then there is of course everyone's most hated Krarkashima. So how does your deck stack up against those? What does this contribute that some of the other more better known pairings don't? What does this offer for someone who's looking to dip their toe into the format or try a new deck?
So for Niv Mizzet Parun, I think Gerson is just, to me, is a better option.
Really?
Because it's 3 mana, so you can cast it pretty fast, and it also has Ward 2 on it. The Ward 2 is just, it's insane with how many people trip up on it.
It's basically hexproof.
Yeah, no, like a lot of people, they sacrifice treasures and try to kill Ghyrson, and they just all stack it. They put all of it on the stack at once, and I'm just like, Ward trigger, and then it's just it all fizzles.
It's just
Yeah, Ward trigger here, Ward trigger here, Ward trigger here, Ward trigger here. And they're like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm. And with like, if you sit down with a Niv Mizzet deck, they're gonna be like, we can't let this Niv Mizzet hit the field, because then they just curiosity and win the game.
Mm-hmm.
But with like Gerson, they're like, okay, it's you cast it early game. Do they really want to like waste a counter spell, or like, and if they waste a counter, if they don't counter it, then they have to spend extra mana to remove it. So they don't really want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I like this list. I think talking through a lot of the choices, there was clearly a lot of thought put into a lot of the card choices. I think probably, there's some like tightening up to be done for sure. But I think there's a lot of really solid bones here. Gerson protecting itself is really good. I wish we had another like curiosity effect that we could play. I think this deck definitely wants like a fourth curiosity effect, because we're playing all the efficient ones anyway. And I think we have a decent density of pingers. Like, I think all the components are here. I think it's just a matter of do our opponents let us play the game? Because I think if we were able to play the game and we're not under rule of law, we're styling pretty hard. But even then, like, a lot of our stuff, if we just land a curiosity effect, just lets us draw 3 cards. We run so many ancestral recalls in this deck that it's not hard for us to play through a rule of law. Or like, I think the hardest part is probably getting like Drannith without our commander. But again, we run a lot of ping effects and run a lot of ways to pressure the Drannith player that I think we can get out from under those effects, or like play through them pretty well. No, I like this list a lot.
Yeah, I would agree. I've seen you do some pretty sweet things with this in tournaments before, and I've really enjoyed watching the list evolve to the point where it is right now. I would be intrigued to see what some of the new card selections bring us in the coming year or so. I feel like being able to transmute your Gandalf into the 11th Doctor and then like power up your Super Saiyan like Ghyrson is going to be really strong. So yeah, I think
we're turning into fucking Fortnite. Jesus Christ,
we already have that. We already have
Fortnite. God damn it, we are.
No, but my point stands. I think the list is really interesting, and I'm really excited to see what further development you do on this list going forwards. Is there anything that we missed covering your deck? I know that we've literally gone through every card. We've talked about a couple of things. Like, do you want to talk about your matchups, or like what are some things? What's 2 things? Pick 2 things that someone who's looking to pilot this deck out of the box should know.
Well, just to pilot the deck, it's a manual storm deck, so you just need to be prepared to do math. Make sure you get all of the stuff instead of just making infinite mana.
Yeah,
and then,
who would ever do that?
Ugh. And then just another thing is just making sure you have your correct pip colors, because it's sometimes you just need to cast your blue spells, but the deck mostly runs around like red. Like, you have your Birgi and your Urabrask. They only make red mana. The only one in there is like Stormkiln Artist that makes blue as well. So just worry about that, because you also have like your Ponder or Preordain as your other cantrips.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely some good advice. Yeah, well, thank you, James, for coming on to the show with us today and talking about this deck. It's been a lot of fun. I know I've really enjoyed it.
I was already high on this deck, and just seeing you play it and just hearing you talk about it, I'm like, okay, this is sick. But going through it, this list is sweet. This is really sweet.
Yeah, so thank you so much. For all of our listeners, the link for this deck on our Mox Field, as James has elected to share it, will be in the description of both the Spotify and the YouTube. So go ahead and click on it, take a look, see if there's anything that you want to pull from this, any adjustments you want to make. Feel free to comment, and of course the original list will be linked in that description like usual. I don't think I have anything else, so looking forward to doing another deck tech with y'all in another 5 episodes.
Yeah, I am all wrapped up here. James, the floor is yours.
Oh, okay. Well, I just had one last, or I guess 2 last mentions of the deck.
Go for it.
Mana Vault. If that card is tapped, you will take 3 damage off of it, because Gerson will trigger and deal 2 damage to you.
Holy shit, it's not asymmetrical. It's completely symmetrical.
Ah!
Good to know. Hold on. It deals damage, so our land base doesn't kill us as well, because most of our lands is loss of life.
Yes, but I had to cut the Izzet Painland and like a City of Brass from the deck, because I'm not going to take 3.
Those do deal damage to us.
Those
Okay,
do deal damage to you.
That is a valid. Yeah, that's valid. That's valid.
That is valuable input. Thank you for sharing that, James.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's all I had.
All right.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. I can't believe it's been 10 episodes, Joe.
Don't say that. That's crazy.
I didn't think we were gonna make it this long. I thought we were gonna bail. I thought we were gonna fizzle out. But
I thought we were gonna get hated out of the universe by now.
But deleted, canceled.
Nah, here we are, 10 episodes later. For those of you that are on the YouTube, we've put a lot of work into the YouTube side of things, despite us being audio mostly. But yeah, James, I want to thank you for graciously sharing us your list and talking through it. This is a pleasure. I love talking these crazy off the wall lists that we're all talking about. Atlas, as always, thank you. And to our listeners, hope you're well. We'll catch you later.